Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính met with President of the Belgian Senate Stephanie de Hoost and Princess Astrid on late December 15th, the last day of his official visit to the European country.
Talking to Senate President Stephanie de Hoost, the government leader of Vietnam affirmed the determination to further intensify cooperation between the two countries. De Hoost said all Belgian parliamentarians present at the meeting had special and long-lasting sentiment towards Vietnam, as they hope to develop the country's ties more intensively and extensively. She also described Prime Minister Chính official visit to Belgium as a success, noting she is interested in the economic aspect discussed during the trip. Praising the encouraging outcomes generated by the EU Vietnam Free Trade Agreement after 2 years of enforcement, the two leaders agreed to keep strengthening bilateral investment and trade partnerships and jointly coping with environmental pollution and climate change, especially in the Mekong Delta of Vietnam. At a separate meeting with Princess Astrid, Prime Minister Chính appreciated the Belgian princess and royal family's sentiment towards as well as support for Vietnam and the two countries' relations. Vietnam always attaches importance to and hopes to enhance comprehensive cooperation with Belgium, he underlined. Princess Astrid lauded the strides in bilateral ties and values the outcomes of her guest visits to 3 European countries and attendance in the Asian EU commemorative summit, as seen in the signing of many documents, particularly those on economy, trade, and higher education. The two sides expressed their delight at the progress of the countries' cooperation, of which investment and trade partnerships form an important pillar. On the same day, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính attended a Vietnam-Belgium Business Forum in Brussels. Speaking at the event, Prime Minister Chính said that the Vietnam-Belgium relations are developing well in all fields. Belgium is also considered one of the gateway markets to the EU for Vietnam's important exports, he said. She expressed his hope that Belgium and European firms continue diversifying products, markets, and supply chain to promote effective and sustainable production and business in Vietnam. At the forum, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính, Princess of Belgium Astrid, and officials of the two countries witnessed the signing of cooperation documents between their ministries, sectors, and enterprises.
Bùi Quang Huy was re-elected first secretary of the Central Committee of the Ho Chi Minh Communist Youth Union at the closing session of the 12th National Congress of the Union on December 16th.
At the beginning of the closing session, the 12th Central Committee is standing board and secretariat in the 2022 to 2027 tenure made their debut. The Central Committee of its 12th tenure has 144 members who were elected during the December 15 session. The committee then elected a 33-member standing board, a 6-member secretariat, and the first secretary. On behalf of the 12th Central Committee, First Secretary Huy pledged to work with high responsibility to concretize and realize all ideas and views set at the 12th Congress. Huy, born 1977, is an authoritative member of the 30th Party Central Committee and head of the National Committee on Youth of Vietnam.
Vietnam's strong economic performance in 2022 has been driven by several factors, including export, domestic demand, and private investment, according to Andrea Coppola, the World Bank's lead economist.
In an interview granted to the press, Coppola explained that Vietnam's export has been very strong in the past and shown to be resilient, including during the COVID-19 crisis when manufacturing exports were the main driver of GDP growth.
Even though we expect the growth of exports to slow down as global demand is weakening, they will continue to contribute to growth going forward.
He added that domestic consumption and retail sales were powerful engines of growth for the country in 2022. This is reflected by the strong recovery of retail sales, which grew by 17% year-on-year in October 2022 compared to 0.4% year-on-year in January. Meanwhile, Private investments played an important role, he said, noting that during the first 11 months of 2022, FDI disbursements grew by more than 15% than during the same period in 2021.
Finally, we need to consider that COVID had a strong impact in 2021, particularly during the third quarter of the year. As a result, the strong economic performance in 2022 is also the result of low base effect.
According to The Economist, the Vietnamese economy will face strong headwinds in 2023 on both external and internal fronts.
A forum promoting Vietnam's tourism in India was held recently in New Delhi as the last activity of the Vietnam Days in India 2022 on the occasion of the 50th founding anniversary of bilateral diplomatic ties.
In his opening speech, Vietnamese ambassador to India, Nguyễn Thanh Hải, said it is the first time the General Administration of Vietnam Tourism has taken a delegation of 12 Vietnamese companies to India following the COVID-19 pandemic. The event aims to popularize Vietnam as a new destination and facilitate B2B matching to better serve Indian tourists in the near future, he said. In November, Vietnam welcomed 27,000 visitors from India, up 31% month-on-month and 50% year-on-year. In the 11 months of this year, the total number of Indian visitors to Vietnam reached 109,000, ranking 5th out of the top 10 markets of Vietnam. The PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry of India vowed that it will help the Vietnamese embassy hold activities promoting tourism between the two nations.
The Civil Aviation Authority has proposed the Ministry of Transport add 9 airports to the National Airport Planning for 2030 with a vision to 2050.
The proposed airports are in Hà Giang, Yên Bái, Tuyên Quang, Hà Tĩnh, Kon Tum, Quảng Ngãi, Khánh Hòa, Đắk Nông, and Tây Ninh provinces. The Civil Aviation Authority urged localities to set up feasibility reports and capital-raising plans for building the airports, adding that the state budget would not provide capital for developing these airports. According to the airport planning which the Ministry of Transport submitted to the government, there will be 28 airports across the country by 2030 and 31 by 2050. Currently, there are 22 airports in Vietnam, including 12 international and 10 domestic ones. A new international airport, Long Thành, is under construction.
The Consulate General of Vietnam in Hong Kong, China, recently held a seminar on scholarship programs for Vietnamese students, where the Chinese University of Hong Kong said it will again grant 30 scholarships to Vietnamese students.
Hong Kong, China has an outstanding advantage in higher education, with 4 of its 8 public universities in the global top 50. Vietnam, meanwhile, has a rich source of young talent, meaning the potential for educational cooperation between the two in general and between Vietnam and the Chinese University of Hong Kong in particular remains huge.
What makes it special is that Hong Kong, China's universities are friendly towards students, which means they pay great attention to their lives and offer many supporting services.
The Chinese University of Hong Kong is currently ranked 38th in the world, according to the Quaker Raleigh Simon's World University Rankings 2023. It conducts many cooperation activities with Vietnam, including a program of 30 scholarships for students at 5 specialized schools in the country.
What impresses me about Vietnamese students is that they have excellent academic achievements, extracurricular activities, and creative thinking.
Vietnamese students and researchers are recommended to make better use of scholarships from the university, as well as other schools in Hong Kong, China.
These programs are very useful, helping students expand their knowledge and work in professional corporate environments in Hong Kong.
Vietnam and Hong Kong, China are leading economic partners of each other and boast complementary strengths. Strengthening cooperation in human resource training and scientific research will offer practical benefits to the two economies and peoples.
An exhibition is underway at the Hoa Lao prison relic site in Hanoi to have the public gain an insight into the fierce 12-day and night struggle against U.S. airstrikes in late 1972 to defend the capital.
The exhibition, entitled The Silence, is being held on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the Điện Biên Phủ in the Air victory, December 1972-2022, and 50 years since the release of American pilots imprisoned in the North, 1973-2023. Visitors will have the chance to learn about the silence after U.S. carpet bombings and fierce battles, as well as the losses and sacrifice suffered by every soldier and civilian during the 12 days and nights of resisting the airstrikes. At the opening ceremony, visitors watched the reenactment for the evacuation of people in the North and the continued production and fighting during wartime.
The U.S. pilots used tricks to avoid the mic missiles, but I still managed to follow an F-4 aircraft and launch a missile. It broke in two. The pilot was able to eject and was later taken prisoner. At that time, I felt quite excited to, together with my teammates, contribute to the great victory of Dien Bien Phu in the air at the end of 1972.
They can also feel the silence behind the stone walls of the Hanoi Hilton, an ironic name that imprisoned U.S. pilots gave to Hoa Lao prison.
So my father was a prisoner for 5 years, and most of the time he spent here in Hoa Lao and some time in other camp of detention, but most of his time was here at Hoa Lao. My father returned to our family February 1973, very healthy, very happy. And he told us from the very beginning that his treatment was fair and that he was well taken care of.
The healing has taken a long time, but it has been very sincere on all sides. And it had to come, because we could not live with the pain and the sorrow of the past. So the Vietnamese have opened the door to Americans to come back and work together, to cooperate, to try to rebuild from the tragedy.
During the historic 12-day and night battle in December 1972, the Vietnamese army and people defeated U.S. airstrikes in the north, shooting down 81 aircraft of all types, including 34 B-52s, forcing the U.S. to sign the Paris Agreement in January 1973 on ending the war and restoring peace in Vietnam. The triumph is known as the Điện Biên Phủ in the Air victory, taking its name from the victory in the Điện Biên Phủ campaign in 1954 that put an end to French colonial rule over Indochina.